Hello, my name is Liza Maria, and today on my podcast, I'm happy to have as a guest NASA astronaut Daniel Tani, which is a NASA engineer and retired NASA astronaut. He flew in space with Space Shuttle, and now he works with Northrop Grumman. So, hello, Mr. Tani. How are you doing today?
Otherwise, I'm doing very well. Good to be talking to you.
That's great. So, to start this podcast, can you tell us more about yourself, like your career as a NASA astronaut?
Sure. Let's see. I started as an engineer. I didn't work for NASA. I was working for other space companies, but I did work with NASA, and I was building satellites and rockets. And as part of my job, I got to work with a few astronauts, and um, that's the first time I'd ever really met an astronaut or thought about being an astronaut. And so that put a little idea in my head. And as I got older and had more experience, I found out, or I thought maybe I should just apply to be an astronaut because, I mean, who doesn't want to fly in space? And so, I'm very fortunate. I live in the United States and I'm a citizen of the United States. So that's one of the requirements to be to be a NASA astronaut right now. And then I went to college and got an engineering degree. And again, all these are all sort of the basic requirements to be an astronaut. And so I sent my application in, and I got very, very lucky. Thousands of people apply, and they only select, a handful. And so I joined NASA. I got accepted and joined NASA in 1996. And that was an exciting time because that was right before the International Space Station was being built and assembled. And so it was a really exciting time to be part of the NASA astronaut office, and lots of flights on the space shuttle to build the space station. And so I had my first flight in 2001, and we went up to the space station, and I got to do a spacewalk and spend 2 weeks in space. It was exciting. And then I came back and I got asked if I wanted to go live on the space station. And of course I did. So I spent 5 years training for that mission. And finally, at the end of 2007, I launched on the space shuttle, went to the International Space Station, and then I stayed there for 4 months and then came home on the next space shuttle that had come up. And so 132 days in space, altogether two exciting missions. I got to do 6 spacewalks in my time as an astronaut in space, and so it was just a fantastic career. I left NASA in 2012, and have been doing other things since then, working in the space industry, but I also taught high school for a while, and I worked in for a nonprofit. So I've done several other things after my astronaut career, but now I'm working for another space contractor.
That's great. And one of my questions is, how is life in zero gravity? How is like sleeping and floating around?
It is fantastic. I miss the floating so much, and now when I watch TV and see my friends that are in space and floating around, I know exactly what it feels like, and I really envy them. Sleeping is really I love sleeping in space because here on Earth when you're under bed, kind of your neck, if the pillow isn't just right, your neck might get bent, or if the mattress isn't just perfect, you might, you know, your shoulders might hurt, your back might hurt. Since you're floating, there's no pressure points on your body. Sleeping is just fantastic. It was my experience that I would get tired. I'd close my eyes. I'd open my eyes because my alarm is going off 8 hours later. I just thought sleeping in space is just fantastic.
So you worked as an engineer, and one of my questions here on this um, subject would be, how did that experience shape your perspective once you got to space?
Well, yes, that's very interesting because I was an engineer in the space industry. And so, as an engineer, if we were building parts of satellites and rockets, and I understood how complicated and how meticulous you have to be to design every little thing on a spacecraft or on a rocket. And there are so when I got into space, I recognized that every single thing I was looking at that somebody had built and designed had to go through rigorous testing and thought process and approvals. And I, some of my friends that are astronauts that weren't, or that were not engineers, kind of took it for granted. Well, they go, here, it's a whatever it is, a can opener, or it's an experiment, and wasn't aware of how difficult and how all the details that need to be followed to design and build and test and then finally fly a piece of equipment. So I think I got a lot of uh, insight, or I really appreciated everything that I was touching and using because I knew that there were great engineers behind every single one of them.
And what do you think it was the coolest part of your astronaut training?
Astronaut training is so much fun. First of all, it's a lot like school because when you become an astronaut, you have to learn about everything. You have to learn about the spacecraft. You have to learn about the rockets you're going to fly on. You have to learn about the spacesuit that you wear. And then we get to fly jets, which is really cool. I think probably my favorite thing about astronaut training is flying these jet aircraft. They're made for the military. They're made to train military pilots. But NASA has a fleet of them. They have about, I don't know, 25 or 30 of them. And I'm not a professional pilot, but about a third of the astronauts are professional pilots. And so they get to fly in the front seat. We call the front seat the primary pilot. But since they're trainers, the back seat where I would sit has all the controls identical. And so when as soon as we take off, depending on who the pilot is, they'll go, okay, do you want to take the plane? I'll go, yep, I take the plane. And so I get to fly these high performance jets that go faster than the speed of sound. Really, really exciting, but really, it's very dangerous. Flying those jets is very dangerous. And so it's really good training for us as astronauts to think about everything we do and coordinate what we do with the other pilot and the ground. So it's great training, but I'll tell you, it is really fun to fly those jets. So I think that's my favorite part of training.
That's great. And now can you share a moment from one of your spacewalk that you found the best yet?
Yeah, spacewalks are really hard. You're in that suit, and the suit is made of hard things like fiberglass and aluminum, and so they don't really move very well, and you can your body kind of hurts when you're pushing against them, and so and it's long. Spacewalks, when you're in the suit, when you go out there, you're out there for 6 or 7, maybe even 8 hours, and so it's a long time in that spacesuit. But when I was there, my job was to build the space station and fix the space station. So when that required a spacewalk, we had to really practice our procedures and understand our procedures. And I got up there when we put a brand new module on the space station. And when you put a new module on the space station, a big one, you have to do a bunch of stuff on the outside, like the electrical work and it's called the cooling system, the thermal system, and we have to reroute all this stuff. And so Peggy Whitson and I did 3 spacewalks to connect all this stuff on the outside of the space station. And it's critical. We put in new pipes for the cooling system. The cooling system has liquid ammonia that goes through it. And it's critical if that ammonia cannot flow correctly, then you can't cool the station. And then you actually have to turn half the power off of the station. So it's pretty critical that works. So we put in all these pipes, and all these pipes have all these very difficult fittings that you have to do just right. And you don't know that you did it right until the very end. So at the very end, I got to open the valve, which would allow all the fluid to flow. And when I opened that valve, and if we did it wrong for the two spacewalks, it wouldn't flow because it wouldn't be a circuit. But when I opened that valve, I could feel the ammonia rushing through the hose that I was holding, and I knew that we had done our job. In terms of the accomplishment of doing my job right, that was the biggest moment. Like, oh, thank goodness we connected all these things correctly. We did it well. We've done our job, and that was a great accomplishment.
That's really cool. And now a question about space shuttle. How was it
Uh,
like with it?
oh, the space shuttle is so awesome. So, well, any spacecraft is awesome. really. But the space shuttle was made, the people are only in a small, called a crew compartment, up in the nose. But the main part of the shuttle, called the payload bay, is made to bring big things up into space, big satellites and space station parts. And so, uh, and so it's a really big spacecraft. So, and it fits 7 people. That's a lot of people. And so there's a decent amount of room in there. If you ever get to see a mock-up, you think, wow, it's really crowded in here. And it is small, but when you're in space, you don't need a lot of room because you can float around, you can float up and down. And so I really loved flying on the space shuttle. It takes off like a rocket, and then it goes and becomes a spacecraft, and then it lands like an airplane or a glider. And so it's a really complicated machine, but really, really fun. Lots of windows to look out, and I really like flying with 6 other people, sharing the experience with my crewmates was really awesome also.
Yeah, and now a question that probably lots of astronauts get all the time is, what were your first thoughts when you first looked out the window and see Earth?
So I first of all, you're in awe. I mean, you're like there, the first time you get to look out the window for the very first time is about maybe an hour and a half after launch, and you're so busy with launch and you're so busy doing the procedures that you kind of forget. No, you don't really forget, but you really are so focused on, let's do this procedure, let's get that job done. And then when you get a break and you get to go to the window and look out, you remember, oh my God, this is what I've been thinking about for so many years. For me, what was funny is when I was a young engineer, these big, huge movies called IMAX movies came out, and you sit and you have to turn your head. The screen is so big, and they would have space themed IMAX movies from the space shuttle, and so I remember sitting in the front seat looking out at the view from this IMAX camera of the Earth, and uh, and when I finally got to the real window and looked out the window, it was kind of funny because my thought was, this is just like the movie. I feel it looks just like the movie does. And I never got tired of the view out the window. We're only about 400 kilometers above the Earth, but that gives us a wide perspective. It's hard to see things that are man-made. So you can see in the night, you can see cities. In the daytime, you can see lakes and rivers and coastlines. Um, but I never got tired of it. It was, I will say, awe-inspiring. It's just amazing that I have the privilege of seeing it, and that and sort of everything that I know, everything I know and love on the earth is there in one view out the window. So I'll never forget looking out the window for the first time.
That's wonderful. And what do you think it's the most exciting part of working with Northrop Grumman as an astronaut?
Well, so I'm not an astronaut with Northrop Grumman. I'm an astronaut that has a job now with Northrop Grumman, and we make the part of the company that I work with makes the Cygnus spacecraft. So the Cygnus spacecraft goes and brings cargo up to the space station, and then takes garbage away from the space station. So I really like it because I'm still involved with human spaceflight with my friends at NASA and my friends that are astronauts that are up there, and so I get to interact with them and talk to them and coordinate with them also. So that's a lot of fun for me. And so it's fun to be part of the infrastructure that keeps humans in space. We're one of the spacecraft that brings cargo up to keep them alive, to keep the science going. And I find that very rewarding.
So now, because we also have Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic,
Mhm.
what excites you most about the future of human exploration?
Uh, so, you know, I'm so fortunate to have gone into space. And when I came back, I think I wish everybody could go into space and experience what I did, because you get to see our beautiful Earth, and uh, it's just such a great experience that I wished everybody could do it. So now with these companies, that it's more accessible. for people to get into space. The more people that are getting into space, I think that's great. And so, the Virgin and Blue provide these shorter flights. They're suborbital flights, but we're building the industry, and at some point, I would think it's going to be relatively affordable to go into space, go around the Earth a couple times, maybe for a couple days, whatever. And so I see the baby steps happening, and so I think it is very exciting. I'm really excited that pretty soon, many people will be able to have the opportunity to see the beautiful things I've seen from low Earth orbit. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and the last question here is, what's your advice for someone young that wants to work with space or even be an astronaut?
Well, there's some basic things. If you're young, and that's do well in school, study hard, do well academically, stay out of trouble. I think we the space agencies, NASA, and European Space Agency, others can be very picky because lots of people want to be astronauts, and so stay out of trouble, because if you get into trouble, that's going to be an easy mark against you. But besides that, if you're excited about space, a good thing to remember is that we're at a point where we're going to go live on the moon eventually, I hope, and then on the Mars, live on Mars. And so now it's not just getting there. It's not just the difficulty of engineers and scientists and mathematicians, but we're going to have to start thinking about all sorts of things. How do you learn when you go to the moon and live there for a year or whatever? So we're going to need teachers. We're going to need specialists on education. What language are we going to speak when we go to Mars? So we're going to need linguists. What are we going to wear? We're going to need fashion designers and lawyers. And so if you're excited about space and you want to work in space, my advice is find what you love to do, and I'll bet whatever that is, maybe it's literature or photography or graphic design. I'll bet that there's going to be a place for you in the space program, because we're going to need all that expertise. If you want to be an astronaut, you know, it, it, it's that's a very difficult, it's hard to achieve that, but it's a good goal to have. And do good things, be a good person, and specifically learn how to speak in front of people, learn how to express yourself verbally, learn how to get along with people, learn how to work in teams. It's so important to work in a team, not as the leader, but as a team member, but then also to transition to a leader. So all those skills are really valuable. And the secret is, if you get really good at those, maybe you'll become an astronaut. But even if you don't, you're going to be good at something else, because those are good skills to have for almost any profession.
Yeah, I think that's a great advice. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today. And it was an absolute honor having you on my podcast, and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Eliza. I appreciate that very much. It's really good to meet you. And I'm going to be coming to Space Fest in Romania. And so I look forward to seeing you there and meeting all sorts of other space fans. So thank you so much.